Hello everyone and welcome back to the Ryan Retro channel. In today's video I'm going to show you how to take your Android handheld from looking something like this, cluttered, clustered and messy, and turning it into something like this. Very clean, minimalistic and super easy to go through your game list, find a game that you want to play and dive right in. This is Cannoli. Heavily influenced by MinUI and NextUI on devices like the TrimUI brick, which take the default experience of the TrimUI brick, which again is quite messy, and while it's very functional, it can look quite chaotic at times. It takes all of these menus and it condenses everything into one super sleek, minimalistic experience that makes it really easy to just pick a game and start playing. Cannoli is the Android version of MinUI. It's very new, so not all of the features are completely fleshed out yet, but it's already fantastic. Once you have everything set up, which is very easy to do, and I'll guide you through in a moment, all you need to do is go through your game list, choose the platform you want to play, find the game you want to play, and just like that, you are in your game. It could not be faster and simpler. One great thing about Cannoli is that when you play games through Retroid, it has its own MinUI-esque menu that makes it super easy to save states and see screenshots of the save states. You can just use the D-pad to scroll left and right through your different save states. So I could drop down one right now on this starting menu, and then the next time I bring up the menu, you'll see that save state, and you can just go left and right and carry on from wherever you wish. It makes that super easy. There are also further settings here that just look far nicer than Retroid that usually looks something like this, or this, which is really hard to see on a display like this, or this, which is the absolute worst. Cannoli's settings just look so much nicer, simpler and to the point. You can so easily throw down your save states, load them back up, go into other settings like this and change anything you would like playing around with the colors or shaders, including the CRT Cannoli shader, which looks really cool. And one of the best things is it's so easy to go into the settings shortcuts and easily customize your shortcuts here. So for example, I like to use R2 to toggle fast forward. And to set that up, all I needed to do was select toggle fast forward and then just hold R2 for a couple of seconds and it's done. That's it. Now in any of these games I play, I just hit R2. Annoyingly in Pokemon that brings up this menu, but you will see here it's in fast forward mode now. And I'm now able to play nice and quick. I'm going to quickly just turn this shader off. And then I'm back playing just as I was before. Then when you want to play a different game, you can just simply hit the menu button and quit out of the game. And you'll see that this is now shown in your recently played collection at the top of the screen. When I want to jump back into the game, we have two options, play or resume. If we hit A to play, we get back into the beginning of the game, just like we would in any other emulator. We're back right at the beginning. But the beautiful thing is that resume button. If you hit the resume button, you're taken straight back into your last save state, which I think is fantastic. It lets you just get straight back into a game where you were. So here is where I was in my Pokemon game. If I quit out of that and come down to Mega Bomberman and resume that one, I'm then right back where I was in Mega Bomberman at the start of this level. Once I'm bored of Mega Bomberman, I can come out of there, come down to Tennis and resume that one. And then I'm right where I was at the start of my tennis game. It's just so great. It's so lightweight and fast. It's just excellent. So Recently Played is one of the collections we have here. You can also make your own collections if you want to collect things like all your Pokemon games together or all your RPGs. So let's come down to our Game Boy Advance games. And on one of the Pokemon games, we're going to hit Start. From there, we can add to a collection. Let's hit Manage Collections. And by default, you have the 5-game handheld collection if you want to focus on 5 games at a time. I'm going to hit Y for new, and then I'm going to make a new collection called Pokemon. And it doesn't have the accent over the E because I'm lazy. So here we have our Pokemon collection, and as you can see, it's checked. So I'm adding Pokemon Fire Red to my Pokemon collection. If I just quickly go through my other games and add Pokemon Ruby as well, come back out, add Pokemon Gold, come down to Nintendo DS and add Pokemon Heart Gold, and you get the idea. You can go through all your games and add them like that. Then when you come to collections at the top of the screen, Here I have my Pokemon collection, and here are all my Pokemon games. Next, let's talk about artwork. As you can see, I have artwork for some of my games, but not for all of them. That's because I haven't added it yet. To add artwork is extremely simple. There is a really easy folder structure with this app. Here is the folder structure. Inside the Cannoli folder we're going to make when we set up the app, there are all these different folders, and inside all of those folders are all the different game systems like Game Boy Advance, Game Boy Color, Nintendo DS, etc. So of course you put your ROMs in the ROMs folder. So if you have a Pokemon Game Boy Advance game like Pokemon Fire Red, that will go in Cannoli, ROMs, Game Boy Advance. Put the game in there. Then get the matching artwork and just check that the file name is the same and put that in Cannoli, Art, Game Boy Advance. So if both of those are in their Game Boy Advance folders with the same name, they'll automatically show up in the app. It's very simple. So let's now talk about how to set this app up for yourself, and I'll also show you another incredible feature that makes this easier to set up and use than almost any other launcher out there. So I'm going to set this up on my white Odin 3. I think the black and white minimalistic look will really suit my Odin 3. Canoli has a fantastic website called cannoli.dev where they have all of their documentation explaining how to do absolutely everything, and they have the APK file available to download, which you can download straight from GitHub. So I'll also link this in the description below as well. Also check out the Cannoli Discord, which is fantastic for getting help. So here is the latest APK file from 3 days ago. So let's download that file. Once it's downloaded, we're going to tap on it to open it up and install. Open up the app. It will say you need to give file access and just press any button on your controller to bring up the menu. Allow file access. Of course, it needs file access to see your games. And now here we are in the app and it says no content found. Go add some. And we have two ways to do this. We can do it on the device, or we can do it using another device on the internet, like a phone or a laptop, which I'm going to show you in a minute. To get started, let's hit X for settings. And here are all of our easy, simple settings. Let's start with library, and we're going to come down to Cannoli root. From here you can choose where you want the Cannoli folder to be. You could have it saved on your internal storage or on an SD card. I like to just keep it where it is, and then you have your ROM directory. So if you already have your own ROMs folder on your SD card, you can just point it there now by choosing this, going to your SD card, choosing your ROMs folder, and then assuming you have some ROMs in there, using that. For this video, I'm going to keep everything just completely standard. So I'm going to use X to clear this ROM directory, which will return us back to the original default Cannoli root directory. And what that means is it will use the ROM folder inside the Cannoli folder. So right on my internal storage here, there will be a folder now called Cannoli. If I come to main storage, next to things like downloads and documents, we have the Cannoli folder. So in here, there will be a ROMs folder, and it's already made for us all of the folders we might need for things like Wii, Wii U, PSP, PS2, PS3, PS1, pretty much everything you could imagine. So we're going to go through and put our ROMs in here. We can of course do that the easy way by just grabbing them on our device and moving them into the folders, which will work fine and show up in the app. But now I'm going to show you the even easier way to add your games onto your device. So what we're going to do, instead of pressing X for settings, we're going to press Y for kitchen. This is Nonna's kitchen, and this is one of the really big features of this app. This will give you a URL to go to in any web browser on your network and a special code that will regenerate every time you use it. So I'm now going to go to this URL on my laptop, and it will ask me for the pin code. So I'm going to enter this pin code here. For me, it's TCT2TJ. For you, it will be something different. And then it's going to bring us into the Nonna's Kitchen app. So as you can see, we have all of our platforms organized by their brand. So we have all the Nintendo platforms. We have Sega, Sony, Atari, NEC, SNK, Bandai, Arcade, Computer, and other. So all we need to do to add some ROMs is to choose the system you want to add ROMs for. So for example, I would choose Game Boy, and then you can add ROMs, BIOS files, save files, box art, guides, and save states are coming soon. So first of all, I want to add the ROMs. So I'm going to click ROMs, and then you can just drag your ROMs onto this page, or you can click Browse to upload. So I'm going to come to where I've saved my Game Boy files, and here I have my tennis Game Boy file. I'm going to click it and click open, and just like that, it's added the game. I could then go back and add a different kind of game. For example, let's say I want to add a Sony PSP game. I will choose ROMs. I can click browse to upload, go to where I've saved my PSP games and choose a PSP game to add to my device. And as you can see here, it is now transferring this file over to my Android handheld for me. That is now done, and as you can see, there is no artwork. So if we want, we can press the Add Art button and navigate to where we have our artwork saved. Here I have one for this game, so I will open that, and that will add the artwork for me. And now it will also show the box art on my device too. Very nice. You can of course grab loads of files and drag them in here if you want to add loads at once. Also, if you're just working on box art, you could click here and then add all of your box art in here as well. There's a bulk upload pre-named files button. So you can click that and choose all of your artwork that you have saved. And as long as the name of the artwork matches the name of the game, it will automatically link it up for you and everything will work. So in this case, you need to make sure that both the game and the artwork are called Yu-Gi-Oh! GX Tag Force, with the exclamation mark in the same place, the hyphen in the same place. Everything needs to match up, and then they will automatically be paired together. If there are any discrepancies in the spelling, then it won't recognize it's the same file and it won't work. So if you're having artwork not show itself, make sure the names match. Once you've added your games and you've added your box art, you could also come along to customization and you can add your own wallpapers here, which means I could add my own Ryan Retro logo. Let's go back to the main menu. I've now added all the games I want, all the box art that I want. I've added my own wallpaper. We're now ready to return back to our Android handheld. So here, back on the Android handheld, let's go back and see if those changes have taken place. And you can see they have, because we have Game Boy and we have PSP. So let's jump into PSP and you'll see it has our box art as well, all ready to go. Beautiful. This app is very new, and unfortunately I'm still having an issue that when I transfer my games over to this Odin 3 via Nonna's kitchen, they don't actually work. I can't load into any games, they just get stuck. Now I have mentioned this to the developer of the app, so hopefully we'll get an update soon. Once it's all working perfectly, this is a really cool and seamless way to just transfer your games and box art and get it set up without needing to even touch your handheld. And while we can set all of it up on the handheld itself, it's just a lot easier to click and drag things on a computer, a laptop, or something like that. So this is really cool. Let's see if I have my wallpaper saved as well. Let's go into Settings, Appearance, Background Image. There it is, absolutely beautiful. Of course, it doesn't really fit on the screen like this, but it looks fantastic on a square screen like this. I think this should come as standard by default. Now you will see one more issue, which is that it's now quite hard to actually see the menu items. So those clever guys at Canoli thought of this as well, and they have a background tint option, which lets you slightly darken the background to once again be able to view all of your menus nice and clearly. While we're in the appearance menu, let's also look at how else we can customize this. Now the whole point of this is it's meant to be very minimalistic. So we're not going to go crazy with customization like something like ESDE, for example, but we can change the colors a little bit if we would like to. So let's come to colors, and we have accent color, highlight, highlight text, text and title. And by just playing around with these, it will become immediately obvious what they do. So let's first change the accent color to yellow. And as you can see, it's changed these accents to yellow, matching my device. We can change the highlight color, which is when you highlight over something like I am here with this white box. So let's change that maybe to also be yellow. You could then also change the highlight text to make it a little bit easier or more difficult to see. You can change the regular text. So right now it's white. If I change that to be something like green, it would really look quite garish. Almost reminds me of teletext and the old Football Manager games when they were called Championship Manager. We can change the titles at the top of the screen as well, and you can really go crazy with this and just customize things to your heart's content. I could, for example, customize it like this, yellow and blue, to match my handheld that I have here. And if I were to set this up on something like my purple Retroid Pocket 6, maybe I'd add some purple accents. It's really nice to just customize, set it how you like it, but for me personally, I actually really just like it how it comes by default. Black and white and super minimalistic. We can also change font from default to the OG, which I'm assuming is the original MinUI font. Both look really nice. We can customize this status bar at the top of the screen. Again, it's very self-explanatory. Do you want to show or hide things like the battery, Bluetooth? Do you want a 12-hour clock, a 24-hour clock, or no clock? You can decide whether or not to show the up data, which is something I'm not sure what it does because I haven't seen it yet. Hide or show your VPN, hide or show Wi-Fi. There's all kinds of different things you can hide or show here, depending on what you like. You can change things like text size. You can change the size of box art and various other things. It has just enough customizability to personalize it to your taste, but not much that you could really spend more than 5 or 10 minutes on it. This app is really all about just getting into your games and just playing your games with no frills and no fuss. And I think it does it really, really well. We have the input setting where you can choose how you'd like your controls to work. It does have retro achievement support, so if you'd like to log in with retro achievements and get all those juicy achievements, you can absolutely do that. The advanced settings are really not too complicated. They're just things like setting up which RetroArch core you would like to use. So for example, when you play PlayStation games, you can choose if you want to use PCSX Rearmed, DuckStation, Beetle PSX. It's just simple RetroArch customizations and things like that. But for the most part, you should be fine just leaving everything as it is. And one thing you may want to do is set this as your default launcher so that every time you turn on your device, it will take you straight back into Cannoli instead of something busy and messy like the default Android launcher can be. Now, if you do set this as your default home screen, which will mean anytime you exit out of a game, you're taken straight back into this home screen, you may be wondering how you can get into your other apps. Well, there are 2 custom collections here called Tools and Ports, which you can fill up with whatever apps you'd like to launch. So by coming into the settings menu and coming down to library, here you can manage your ports and your tools. Now I've heard you can also rename these as well to other things. So you might be able to call them apps and emulators or something like that. But I've not actually found out how to do that, but I heard it is possible. So for example, let's say tools, I want to set up all things like Chrome, my file manager, the Play Store, Netflix, etc., etc. I'll put those in tools. And then in ports, I'll put standalone games. So things like Balatro, Cassette Beasts, Fortnite, Genshin Impact, Papers, Please, Pojav Launcher for Minecraft, etc., etc. So then when I come back to my home screen, I have ports, which will let me launch those games, such as Balatro. So I can jump into Balatro, no worries. Then if I come back to my home screen again, I can jump into another game like Cassette Beasts. And because I've set Canoli to be the default launcher on Android, whenever I press the home button, I go straight back into Canoli every time. And it's super easy to just jump into whatever I could possibly want to do. So maybe now I want to play Pokemon Gold on Game Boy Color. It just takes a matter of a few seconds. I mapped that button on the back to be fast forward, which it remembers across different games. It's so simple. Whenever I'm done, I can hit the menu button, drop down a save state, then quit out of the game. I can jump into another game. I can quickly resume where I was before. It's just so simple, minimalistic, and easy to use. I think of all of the launchers I've used over the past year or two, this is the easiest. So for someone looking for a simple experience, I can highly recommend using this. And to really kind of get my point across with that, my idea when I saw this app announced was I was going to sit down with it for maybe 2 or 3 days, maybe write down some notes, put together a tutorial for you guys to follow and really think it through really well to make it as easy to follow as possible, like I like to do. But I sat there and I installed this. And it took me probably about 3 minutes before I felt really comfortable with using it. And I would say it was less than 10 minutes before I thought to myself, I can just film this video now. I mean, it is a couple of days later. I have been talking to the developer of the app a little bit just to try and get some information so I don't come into this video totally blind and I can try to help you guys as much as possible. But I had this feeling with this launcher that in less than 10 minutes, I knew it pretty much inside out. And I think you guys will get that feeling too. Now, there's some things we haven't covered. For example, in collections, you can make nested collections. So for example, let's say I have a collection for Pokemon games. I could then further differentiate them between, for example, Gen 1, Gen 2, Gen 3, or real Pokemon games and Pokemon ROM hacks. So in order to do that, I can press Start, Manage Collections, and I can now make a new one. So let's hit Y to make a new one, and we'll call this Real. And Pokemon Ruby is in that Real collection. I'm also going to make one new collection and call it ROM hacks. Create that, and make sure Pokemon Ruby is not in the ROM hacks collection. Now let's go back to our collections menu, and you can see it's a bit messy right now. There's lots of collections. We're going to hover over Pokemon and press Start, then choose Child Collections. We're going to select Real and ROM hacks. That's going to move them inside the Pokemon collection. So the Pokemon collection is going to be the parent, and Real and ROM hacks are going to be its children. How cute. So let's come out of this, and you'll see they've now disappeared. Real and ROM hacks are not in the collections menu, they're inside the Pokemon menu. So now when I open Pokemon, we have Real and ROM hacks. So let's go into Real, and we have Pokemon Ruby. Let's go into ROM hacks, and we don't have anything yet. For demonstration purposes, let's just move Pokemon Heart Gold into ROM hacks by pressing Start, Manage Collections, ROM hacks. Let's go back, and now you'll see it's still in the Pokemon collection, but it's also in ROM hacks. So here I could put things like Emerald Sea Glass, which I've been playing lately. You'll notice that the games are still in here and in there, which I like, but if you wanted them to only be in the child collections, you could press Start, Manage Collection, and you could uncheck Pokemon and just only select the child. So for Pokemon Ruby, I'll say that's Real. For Pokemon Heart Gold, Manage Collection, I'll say that's ROM hack. And you'll see they're now gone from here. Let's also put Pokemon Fire Red and Gold in those as well, just for demonstration purposes. Now when I come into my Pokemon collection, there are no games, there's Real and ROM hacks. When we come into Real, we'll have our Real Pokemon games. When we come into ROM hacks, we would have our ROM hacks. So that's how you organize your games into collections. And if you organized all your games into collections and decided that you didn't even want to see Game Boy, Game Boy Advance, Game Boy Color, you just wanted to see the collections like Pokemon games, Yu-Gi-Oh games, puzzle games, fighting games, for example, you can do that by coming into the settings, appearance, library, and where it says content mode by default, you can change that to collections only. And now you can see all I have are my recently played games, my 5-game handheld collection of 5 games, which I haven't set up yet, the Pokemon collection I just made, and then our ports and tools, which I set up to be my standalone games and apps that I may need to use. You can hide all of these, turn them off, it's completely up to you. If we just move 5 games into the 5-game handheld collection, to select many at once, you can hit select and then toggle all the games you want. So I'll just toggle 5 random PlayStation 1 games, then hit start, manage collection, 5-game handheld. That will move all of those games to the 5-game handheld folder. So here I have my 5 games to focus on. If you want to, you can just only show this inside Cannoli. So you can hide all of these other systems and collections and just focus on those 5 games. To do that, come to the settings, library, and like how I showed you the default menu with all of the systems and the collections only menu with just things like Pokemon games, Yu-Gi-Oh games, whatever you set up, there's one final one, which is 5-game handheld. If you set it to this, then you're only going to see those 5 games and your ports and tools. So your standalone games, your apps that you set up. But the only games you're going to see are those 5 games right there, ready to go. So if you want to focus on 5 games, you can do that. So just to quickly summarize, this is an extremely clean, minimalistic app that takes your really busy looking Android home screen and condenses it into something super clean and easy to use. You can choose to focus only on 5 games at once, to focus on collections of games, for example, Pokemon games, organized by if they're real games or ROM hacks, or you can see all of your games and all of your systems in a really clean, simple list. You can just click on the system you want to play, find the game, and just launch straight into it. No fuss, no frills, no bother. You can easily see the games you played recently and press one button to jump straight back into your previous save file. The menu is also super simple and easy to manage save states, jump in and out of them and change settings. It is just a fantastic, beautiful, and easy to use launcher that I highly recommend trying. I mean, after all, it is free and you can get set up with this in less than 10 minutes. So I hope this was helpful, I hope this was useful, and I hope this helps you enjoy playing your games. If you enjoyed the video, please give me a like and subscribe if you haven't already. I hope you enjoyed it, I hope you have a wonderful day, and I'm sure it won't be long before we're saying hello again.